Hi, this is Angelique Duffield from Bright Spark Media. Welcome to the Power of Free show, where we help entrepreneurs and business people use free tools in their business to create success. And today's guest, I have Laura G. Jones, and she is going to be talking to us about something that I really struggle with myself. So I'm really looking forward to this episode. We're going to be talking about productivity, clarity, focus, and mindset. So Laura, why don't you just introduce yourself?
Hey, Angelique, and hi, the Power of Free tribe. It's such an honor to be here. So I am a productivity and clarity coach for what I call creative grasshoppers. It's my own unique term for entrepreneurs who are really passionate about pretty much everything. And so they kind of start a lot of different things, and sometimes they have trouble finishing them, or they jump from one thing to the other. And so I just help really get focused and all of that together and do it in a way that honors their natural rhythms and just in a way that uses habits rather than very rigid schedules. So it's very flexible, and I like that system. It works for me. I'm a creative grasshopper myself.
Oh, awesome. Me too. I'm definitely a multi-passionate entrepreneur, I've said. And I struggle from the same things. We've talked about this before we went on the show, and I definitely have a problem with starting, or a challenge with starting lots of different things and being inundated with ideas and trying to pick just one, and definitely prioritizing and focusing. So you have, how did you get started? How did you figure out that this was kind of what you wanted to do?
Well, my journey started similar to any creative grasshoppers, which means I jumped around from thing to thing a lot. So my first website was actually called Link to Yourself, and it was all about just authentic living, kind of general life coaching stuff. And I actually started it like 4 years ago, and it was this little blog spot, dinky blog. And then, of course, I quit after a few months. Even though back then, after a couple of months of posting randomly, I was already starting to get emails and stuff. So then I started it again like a year and a half ago. And of course, I was expecting things to just go like that. Oh, in a few months, I was like, why aren't I getting any emails from people? Why is no one coming and commenting on stuff? Well, the internet changes. So after this, I kind of switched it all to my name, and I jumped between like a couple of different themes and topics, clarity, confidence, all things that I still kind of do work on. But eventually I realized that what I'm really good at is the focus part and the productivity part. I love doing experiments. I love figuring out things that are flexible and that work together with people's kind of rhythms, rather than like, I hate the schedules. I just hate it myself. I'm the kind of person that will I used to be like making 15-minute schedules, exactly what you're going to do every like 10 minutes. And pretty much like half an hour into the day, that schedule got tossed out the window.
Yes, me too. I get it.
So that's, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I wasn't really going to say anything else other than, I'm a little bit of a creative mess, and this is what came out of it. So I like working with it rather than trying to stifle it.
I think that's a fantastic way to look at it, because we all have our own quirks, and it makes us all very unique. And having a flexible process makes so much sense, because I do the same thing. I have lots of lists, and I check off a few things, and then I kind of get distracted. Oh, look over there. and I do the same thing. So I love when we were talking that you said, don't worry about being rigid and trying to set a schedule and things like that. And you just said you just need to kind of start doing habits, and here's some ways that you can do it. So I thought it was really actionable, and it was a really kind of friendly, self-loving way of doing it, instead of torturing ourselves, because we all do, or quite a few of us suffer from that guilt and frustration from not following through on the things that we start.
Oh yes, definitely.
So why don't I yeah, let's dive into productivity and mindset. I'm just reading some of the things that we were going to talk about here. And people always have this really big to-do list, and they're often busy being busy. So why do you think that happens? And I'm guessing it's pretty harmful in business and in life.
Well, it's harmful partly because your focus shifts from sort of what you need and what you want in life to the to-do list. It's like it sucks you in, and that's all you can think about. And all of a sudden, that becomes sort of a big universe that your entire life is ruled by. It's all about your to-do list. Your emotions are dictated by your to-do list. How you feel about yourself on any one day is dictated by your to-do list and whether or not you finish it. My approach to a to-do list is actually that it should not be finished. My approach to lists in general are I never make a list for myself that I expect to actually finish, because I know that's just going to lead to sort of my inner rebel saying, you can't tell me what to do. I'm not going to do this, and then not doing it. So I like to set, when I set lists, I set up really big lists that are just about sort of everything that comes, just like I call it brainstorming to-do lists. So it's all right, here's all the things that I would like to do. Or when I think about a project that I would like to make, you know, I'll break it down. But I don't like to set up like specific timelines that I like things to be done by, or specific dates that I need to do things by, unless it's I know for sure that I can definitely manage them, and I make it very relaxed and very manageable. And often I end up doing a lot more than I think, but it's because, you know, it's kind of like kids in school. When you tell them what to do and you're like, you have to do this and this and that as a homework, they're like, I don't want to do it. But if you give them sort of a little thing and they enjoy doing it, then they might do 3 more exercises just because they're fun and just because they had a good time doing it. And that was always my experience in school, and that was kind of, I guess, a part of probably what went into my system later.
Cool. That's so interesting that you talk about how your to-do list really affects how you're feeling for the day, like that guilt and the stress and the I'm not good enough and what's wrong with me, and then lack of motivation, and it all kind of tumbles into this one sort of conglomeration of frustration and stress, and then you don't get anything done and we start spinning our wheels. I love how you said too that you have a brainstorming list instead of a to-do list. That's a really good way of looking at it. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so instead of creating kind of rigid, disciplined lists, you talk about creating habits. So can you explain a bit about that?
So creating habits, creating habits is a very flexible thing that you put in your life. So, okay, this is like something that I always have to explain, and it's always kind of messed up in my mind. So just allow me a couple of moments to kind of gather my thoughts on it.
Sure.
So number one, why habits are awesome is because they don't take that much energy and self-control to maintain once you've set them up. So, you know, if you tell yourself, if you set a schedule that's different every day, then you're always going to have to use that self-control to sort of get yourself to do what you need to do. But once you've set up sort of a routine for yourself, a daily habit, then it takes much less effort to keep them going. Right. Number 2 is that daily habits they're so easy to change, to adapt, to add things to. So I am a royal mess, not just in sort of how I'm organized, but also in what I do around the house. So a while ago, I finally convinced myself to do the dishes every single day. And the way I did that is it kind of became the first thing I did every morning. I would wake up and I would say, all right, let's do the dishes. And honestly, I found it a great way to just ease into the day and start thinking, like start my brain up and start thinking about things. And then over time, I said, all right, you know, this stove is a mess and I only clean it up like once a week. So I started every time after I'm done with the dishes, I also wipe the stove. And then, you know, I add a couple extra things and a couple extra things. Now I also clean off the table. And so slowly I get to the point where every morning it's kind of my routine to do the dishes, clean up the stove, clean up the table. I have a nice clean kitchen to enjoy every day. And it's all in habits that I don't have to control or worry about or, you know, feel like I have to, it's a chore that I have to do every day. It's just part of my routine.
Okay. So how do you start to set those habits? I mean, you've given a really good example about the dishes, and a lot of people do kind of the mindless task, whether it's doing dishes or mowing the lawn or something that's kind of lets your mind go free a bit so that you can then get more ideas and you can be more creative. So how do you start setting those habits for yourself? What are your top tips to stop yourself from feeling overwhelmed?
Well, so the first thing with setting habits is I like to use anchor habits. So the first thing I would tell anyone to do is look at what are the habits that you already have in your day, and then use those habits to sort of start adding on to it the same way I did with doing the dishes, and then I started adding things onto it. So, you get up every morning, you brush your teeth. This is pretty much something everyone does. So if that's your only thing that you do every single day, that can become your anchor habit. What do you add on to that?
Right.
What part of your day will you do? So that's the first thing. The second thing is to keep experimenting and tracking. And this is something I'm really, really big on is time tracking, and that's actually also related to the resource I have for Tribe members. So it's all about if what you don't measure, you can't improve. And I'm not like one of those crazy people that measures everything up in like big spreadsheets and everything has to be done by the detail. I love people who do that. I am a numbers person. I love playing with numbers, but honestly, I see that as a waste of time sometimes and as a way we sometimes procrastinate just by being perfectionists about it. So what I do is, I track my time every few weeks or every month or so for a couple of days. I write down exactly what I did every time during that day, as well as what I was feeling, what my thoughts are about, and then at the end I go back and I reevaluate. Was I using my time wisely? Was it reflecting my priorities? Was it just in line with my natural rhythms? Did I feel good doing it? And then slowly when you do that, you start to identify more pockets for habits, like when, it's best for you to take breaks, things like that are really important to figure out.
Okay, so that's pretty awesome. I like how you've talked about things being in alignment with your own natural rhythms and setting up that time tracking sounds really valuable, because I'm sure if I tracked every move that I make for an entire 8 hours in a day, there would be a lot of wasted time. And I guess you don't know how much, or you don't realize how much time you're wasting until you come back and 2 hours later you've been stuck on Facebook or on Pinterest or whatever it is that you do. So what else do you put into your time tracking? You've talked about not being rigid with it, and this is actually what Laura's gift is going to be for everybody later, so I'll definitely post a link after the show and in the show notes. Do you want to just go into detail? I know it's kind of earlier than we were going to talk about. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how the time tracking that you're going to be sharing with us?
Sure. So it's the time tracking gift for you. It's actually more than just a time tracking gift. It's a 9-day mini course over email. And I don't email every day because I know we don't all check our emails every day. And again, I'm all about being flexible. So on the first day, what happens is you get your time worksheet. So this is like a nifty little worksheet that just records everything. And you're going to print this out and try to record your time for 5 days if you can do it. If not, even 1 day is enough. And then after a couple of days, I get back into your inbox and I send you a big analysis worksheet. And we work through your priorities. We work through exactly what you learned from tracking your time. We break it all down and we analyze it. And then after that, we move into the implementation stage and you start thinking about what are the changes I would like to make? What are some of the systems and habits and rituals that I would implement? And then after that, and this is about at the end of the 9 days, we go back and we reevaluate the changes that you made and we commit to new changes. And we talk about how things have changed over time.
Awesome. So basically it's tracking yourself for a short period of time, analyzing it, implementing it, and then committing to new changes. That sounds pretty easily when it's broken down like that.
Yes, and it's a system that you can go back through and do every month if you want to, or every few months, and sort of recalibrate. And I find that really useful, and I actually do that all the time.
I bet, and I think, I think revisiting it every month would be a really good habit to develop as well.
Yes, there you go, getting into the mindset of habits.
So why do you think it is that people procrastinate? Why are we so many people struggle with this, and like I said, I definitely do as well. So what are the key things that people are experiencing that leads to the procrastination?
There are multiple reasons why people procrastinate. Of course, I could just talk for a whole day about it. But the first thing I would like to maybe start with is people you don't follow your natural rhythms. So you try to force yourself into doing something at a time when it just doesn't really work for you, or you're not used to doing it, or you're pushing yourself too hard. Like you've worked already for 7 hours straight, you've procrastinated a lot, in the meantime you're still pushing yourself. But at that point, your body's just going to call it quits and rebel against you. So that's maybe the first part. And the second part is I think we really have an issue with being uncomfortable with being uncomfortable. As cliche as that sounds, when that moment comes that you're trying to get something done, and you know, we live in an ADD society. I am crazy ADD. I'm always like tempted to switch over. Oh, let's see what's new on Facebook. It's like instant gratification served right in your browser. It's, you know, Facebook, email, blog posts. I have my feed reader open and I get so many extra blog posts like every hour. I just want to read them all. And then from that, they have links to other posts. And I'm like, oh, I haven't read about that. I haven't read about that. And there goes 2 hours of my life. So just when you have that, you know, urge to go do something else because maybe you're bored, maybe you've hit a, you know, a little bit of a wall in your writing or whatever it is that you're doing, my biggest tip for that is just sit with that uncomfortable feeling. It's not really going to take that long until it just goes away and you can keep going. And I noticed this because I always got my best work done when I was traveling on the train on my commute while I was still working. So during that hour, I always wrote a whole blog post. And when I got home and I would sit down and try to write another blog post, and I'd be like, nope, this isn't happening. So 3 hours later, I'd be like, yeah, that totally did not happen. It's really, and I realized then what happens is I'm forced to sit with that uncomfortable feeling. I'm forced to push through the wall. And I just literally, like, when I got to a wall, instead of checking Facebook, I would just look out the window, sort of let my mind take a little break, and then I would get another idea and I would move forward. That faith that, hey, look, you can make it over this wall. It's not necessarily that you got to the point where you can't make it through. But always procrastinating, it teaches you that you can't do it. You get into the habit of when you reach that wall, you think, I can't make it through this, because you've never forced yourself to make it through it. You've never seen yourself make it through.
Cool. It just made me think that you've got a really good tweet rule there, that you need to the people are not good at being uncomfortable with being uncomfortable. Is that your quote that you said?
Yes.
I think that's so true. We should everyone tweet that out.
So people are uncomfortable with being uncomfortable, and that is what makes you procrastinate.
Right. That's great. So anyone out there, tweet that out. I find the same thing too, that when I work from home, so quite often I will kind of get stuck. And it's not that I don't like my office. I've got a nice window out here. I can actually look out. But sometimes it's that feeling of stuckness. And every once in a while I'll just take my laptop and I'll go either outside and sit outside and work, or I even sometimes go to a coffee shop where they've got Wi-Fi, just to kind of break that routine, and then just kind of people watching or listening to a podcast, and then suddenly I'll start having all these ideas and I'll be like writing like crazy, and it's either a blog post or a course or whatever it is I'm creating. But the flow seems to come more naturally, like you said, when you're not being forced into doing XYZ at this time. So I think that's something valuable.
Absolutely.
That we need to, and I think maybe we need to be more forgiving with ourselves and more lenient and accepting that this is what happens. And instead of that working through, like we all try to do, and then we're sitting here 3 hours later and we still haven't gotten that blog post done, or we still haven't done what we needed to do. And if we just let ourselves kind of relax, if we've hit that wall, like you said, just kind of looking out the window and letting your mind wander, or just getting up, walking around, going for a walk for 15 minutes and coming back, and then sitting down, and you're a lot more refreshed, and your mind is more receptive to doing the work that you wanted to do in the first place. But we somehow feel forced that in our 9 to 5 day, like from the corporate world or whatever it is, that we need to sit here and focus for 8 hours and then go and do something else. And it's kind of breaking that mindset. Do you agree?
I absolutely agree. And I actually wanted to say, so there you gave me exactly 2 openings for new habits that anyone can implement. So number 1 is, when you are reading something or listening to a podcast, that's actually my best tip. Or if I feel like I want to write something and I have ideas, I just go consume something by someone I really love or appreciate, and then that brings me a ton of ideas. But my tip for that is, all right, my experience has been is I listen to something, I get ideas, and then I start writing, and then oftentimes after that initial sort of surge of ideas goes on, you get to a point where it slows down. And then the big temptation is, all right, let's go back to consuming. But then that just kind of breaks it all. If you're stuck with it, you could create a lot more from those initial ideas. So one of my habits is if I get a surge of inspiration, I sit with it for at least, like, I don't know, 15 minutes, half an hour. I sit with it well past the point where it becomes, slows down and I feel like I don't have anything else. And I just keep writing. I just keep writing whatever is going through my head. Eventually, I find that I am able to use it really well. So that's the first habit. And the second habit is exactly, if you don't have to sit with your uncomfortable feeling in a way that doesn't work for you. When you have that wall of procrastination, try to think of a ritual or something that you could do that would snap you out in a way that's for you really well. So like you said, for some people that might be getting up and taking a walk. For other people, you might benefit from doing 10 push-ups. Or you might just, want to do what I do and just look around or do a small meditation. Whatever you need to do. But it can be extremely personalized. So that's the kinds of habits and rituals that I'm talking about that are little things, but little things make a huge difference when you implement them consistently.
Right. So basically, celebrate those small wins, and following on from that, we might as well just keep going. Those are your first two tips that will help people to stop procrastinating. So we've got consuming something when you're feeling stuck, so that it kind of gets your juices flowing, and then making sure that when you actually hit a wall, you're going to do something that kind of breaks that habit, and whether it's meditating or going for a walk or just relaxing into it a bit instead of feeling that really tight, balled up focus. So what would your other two tips be? You said you've got 4 tips to help people stop procrastinating. So what's the other 2?
So the third one is always have a purpose. I think it's really important when I open Facebook, I try not to open it without having a purpose. And that can be, hey, I'm going to spend half an hour, cleaning up the room and chatting with my best friend. Or I'm going to, go check in on all of my groups. And that sort of keeps me there so that, I don't get sucked in by newsfeed or by everything else. I at least make sure I get it all done, everything that I kind of had in mind as a purpose. I don't write down goals. I don't write down tasks. If it doesn't happen, if I find that I get sucked into it, I just kind of stop and close it down and say, all right, maybe this is not the time for Facebook. Maybe I need a break. So that's like the third thing is don't sit down to work or to open Facebook or to do anything else without an idea of what you would like to work on or even how long you would like to work on it for. And what happens is this will spare you from feeling like your work will go on forever. It will spare you from falling into that Facebook all day trap. And it will give you something to look forward to too, which is kind of being done or having all of those, something nice posted in all those groups. Things like that. So that would be the third.
Okay.
Now the fourth is clean your bowl. So there's this old Zen whatever story that really impacted me when I read it, and it's it's a master with his apprentice, and they just finished eating and they're about to head back, and the master asks the apprentice, "Are you finished eating?" And the apprentice says yes, and the master says, "Well, then go clean your bowl." And then the apprentice is enlightened just like that. So the idea with this is I used to open emails and just read them and then star them and then realize 10 days later that I never answered them. I used to sort of do the dishes and then stop midway because I got an idea and then do something else and then stop to do something else and then so on and so forth. So I've gotten into the habit of always finishing what I'm doing. And that's the idea of clean, one of the many interpretations of clean your bowl is the interpretation that I drew from it that benefited me the most. And that is always finish what you started. Try to keep going in that, even if it's uncomfortable, even if, you're tempted to do something else. And a little tip that I have there is have a notebook with you that you write down ideas in or things that you want to do. Because, initially you'll feel like, oh, no, I'm going to forget. Well, have that notebook there. Just a little, whatever, journalist notebook. It'll work most time, you know, if you want to be fancy. It'll work really well, and just you can just write down your things and then try to remember to look back on it. That's another idea, cleaning your bowl. So I always just kind of, if I track my time and I realize that I'm doing this too often, sort of stopping things midway, I go through a couple of days and just repeat this in my head every time I do an activity. It's clean your bowl, clean your bowl, clean your bowl. And it really works for me.
Awesome. So those are some really great actionable tips. I like that you've given people things that they're able to put into place, and even just doing one or two of these things will help them with getting more organized and celebrating little wins. And that you
Yes.
actually do all this stuff yourself. You're not just saying it. This is how you've kind of developed your own habits. And I bet you're not perfect either, right? I think that's another thing to celebrate, that we all have our quirks and we all fall off the wagon, and it's just appreciating and letting it flow.
Absolutely, and that's the reason why I always go back and do this exercise. If I was perfect, I wouldn't need to track my time anymore. But you know, I fall back into like old habits and issues and stuff like that. I forget about certain habits. I don't always stick through with them, and you know, it's just that's why it's important to kind of go back and work with them. I mean, I'm not, you know, I had moments when I first started coaching, and I still have them sometimes, and I'd be a liar if I didn't admit this, where I feel like, man, you're so disorganized. How can you coach people on being organized and productive? And then it's kind of the part where I kind of remind myself, you know, I just have to be a couple of steps ahead of someone else. That's number one. Number two, you're always better at helping others than you are at helping yourself. I've seen this in me. I've seen this in so many other people that I work with who are great at doing what they do for others, and then they come to me and they're like, oh no, you know, and I'm like, dude, you're so good at what you do. Like, you need to always assume that there's going to be a huge gap that you can help others with and what you apply yourself. But the better you get at what you do yourself, the better what you do to others. Oh, and I had a tweetable for the clean your bowl thing too, and that is, if you don't clean your bowl now, you will have to scrub twice as hard later. And this is something that's been proven to me over and over and over again.
Yeah, that makes sense. So if you don't clean your bowl now, you'll have to scrub twice as hard later.
Yep.
Awesome. What you were just saying just reminds me of, I was just watching a video by, I think it's Christian Mickelson, and he was actually saying that now he is a very successful coach, and he was actually coaching people for many years. He was making $35,000 to $40,000 a year, and yet he was coaching clients to have six-figure incomes. And he said he had a real, you know, a bit of guilt and stress and feeling inauthentic about the fact that he's telling people how to do it, and he's at first he wasn't able to do it himself, and that all shifted with his mindset, and yet a lot of other things that he brought in and realized then eventually became that what he was teaching. And I feel kind of the same too. I'm fantastic about helping people with online marketing strategies and being organized and giving them checklists, and here's some things that you can do, and brainstorming. And then, you know, myself, I feel stuck sometimes too, and I think, oh my God, I'm not following my own advice, and I haven't created a schedule for the next 2 weeks, and why am I not doing this? And I think that's where it also comes in that you need help too. Like, we all need somebody we can use as an accountability partner. We all need coaches and mentors. And if you think of, especially like athletes, people who are in the like gold medal athletes, they are at the top of their game, and yet they still need coaches to help them be even better than they could be on their own. So
Absolutely. And it's so easy to fall into that trap. So easy to just think I'm not good enough. But it's the same thing that they tell people, and I've told this and I've used it. You know, if you're feeling bad, go help someone feel better. And that will make you feel better. Ever since I started coaching entrepreneurs on how to be more productive, I've become a lot more productive. It's just good because the more you say it to others, it almost like it sinks into your brain.
Yeah, for sure. And I love that part about helping others. And sometimes it's just getting out of that funk. It's kind of getting the wheels turning and not feeling so self-centered. Not necessarily self-centered in a bad way, but we do kind of get very self-absorbed and self-focused, especially for anyone who's working from home and who doesn't have that ability. Like at your office, you might just go over and talk to somebody at their desk, and and kind of get freed from your own self thoughts. But when we're working on our own, sometimes it's not as easy to do that. So just kind of letting ourselves, well, not beating ourselves up over that too, I think is a really good point.
Absolutely.
So how do you actually figure out what your priorities are? What are some steps or some tips that you could give for that?
I think that's a very personal, it's a very personal like task that you have to do, where you have to kind of sit and there's certain exercises that you can do to think about that. To some people it comes easily. They can just say, oh, you know, instantly, it's family, it's work, it's, you know, the old, like, what everyone used to think is all, like, you know, God, family, work. And I think it's, number one, it can just come to you, or you can do certain exercises. One exercise that I really like to do is, and I know this sounds weird and morbid, but go with me. I have a funny sense of humor. So suppose that you died, and suppose that you died, you know, maybe not tomorrow, but 5 years from now, and you know, everyone is at your funeral, and the best question to answer there is, what do you want them to be saying about you? What do you want them to be remembering about you? How do you want them to be remembering you as? I feel like that is a way that instantly gets your priorities in check. Now, that's the first one. Other thing is, if you have children especially, I would say, you know, what do you want your children to grow up to learn from you or remember from you? Things like that that kind of take you out of yourself and your own sort of idea and mind, and put you in the perspective of what you want to contribute to the world, to others, even to yourself. You know, my husband bought me a guitar for my birthday last year, and it was the best birthday present ever, because I've had a guitar when I was in Romania, and I taught myself how to play. It was like my one big thing, and then I hadn't played since then, so it was such a big deal to me. And then, I don't know, like 5 months later, I realized I hadn't really touched that guitar since my birthday when I played it, because I was constantly mired in work and procrastination and other things, and I never gave myself the permission to play guitar and not feel guilty about it. And that was one thing where I had to think about, you know, what are the things that I would really like to do with my time and with my life if I didn't have to earn money, if I didn't, you know, if I could just be the ideal me, if I could just be the kind of person I want to be. So I guess there are 3 exercises that you can do. You know, you ask yourself what you want people to say about your funeral. You can ask yourself what you want your children to learn from you. And you can ask yourself what you would like to do in your life if you had no restrictions whatsoever. And if you could just be the ideal version of you, not the perfect version of you, but that ideal version of you that you'd like people to talk about. So just envision that reality, and that will really show you what your priorities need to be.
I like what you said about the not the perfect version of you, but the ideal version of you. And I think we all have those aspirations and that really big why, whatever it is that we're trying to accomplish, that we're trying to achieve. And I've had to step back and think about this myself too. We live in the Okanagan Valley in West Kelowna, BC, in this beautiful region. And you know, sometimes it's been a struggle living here because it's a very expensive place, and you know, with our own businesses, we all have our own challenges, and then all personal stuff all kind of comes in and overwhelms us. And every once in a while when we're out, I started open water swimming because my husband is also a big open water swimmer, and I started swim training last August, and I'd never really been a swimmer per se. I learned to swim, you know, a little bit, and now I'm taking it into distance swimming. So I realized that we live right near the lake. We're like a 5-minute walk, a 2-minute drive, and there are dozens of places, beaches in this 72-mile lake or whatever, however big it is. And we enjoy kayaking and camping, and every single day we go out there and do that. And if I would have to put on my personal list, what would I be doing every day if I could just do whatever I wanted? Well, kayaking and swimming and camping, those would be some of the things that would definitely be on there. So I've really started to try and think about that part of it when I'm having those kind of bad days or when I'm feeling stuck, and really appreciating the personal parts and letting myself do that. And okay, maybe this afternoon I didn't get any work done. I walked to the beach because I really felt stuck and was frustrated. I spent 2 hours just going for a swim and going for a walk. and just kind of going, it's okay. This is where I want to be, and it's okay to be here and where you are right now.
Yeah, that is really important, and it's awesome that you learned to, open water swim and are doing long distance. That's so cool. Good luck to you with that.
Oh, thank you. I did my first race about a month ago now in July at the Across the Lake Swim, and it was 2.1 kilometers, and I'm quite a slow swimmer, and I'm definitely a flat water, nice calm water kind of swimmer, but that's okay. I'm cool with that. But of course, the day of the swim, my husband was kayaking beside me, and there's 900 people who took part in the swim. Every year, I've been the photographer for the event, as you know, I'm a professional photographer as well. So I've been there watching people. It's always been fantastic weather. It's such a joyous occasion. There's lots of families. It's a great event. This year, it was crazy weather. It was so windy. There was kind of a freak current that happened, and I didn't actually end up finishing the race. So it was really, really disappointing. But 140 people also didn't make it, so I had to kind of get over that and realign my thoughts and think, I'm definitely going to do it next year. And at least I went out and tried it, and so many people said that to me too. All these people who finished the race, who were competitive swimmers for a long time, and they doubled their time. So everybody had a challenge that day. So it was taking that perspective and thinking, at least I went out and started it, and at least I trained for it, and at least I accomplished this, and at least I got so far in the lake, and all those things, those positive, the little wins like you were talking about before.
That's crazy. Just the fact that you did it, and I know you pushed yourself. You must have, you get to that point where you realize you're starting to, that you're getting to the point where you need to quit, and you just resist that, and you're like, no, I'm gonna push. I'm gonna push.
Yes, yeah, that's
and so you keep on going, and I know you did that. So that is awesome. Just that, that's exactly what you could have done had you been one of those people who had like all the Olympic training or whatever. That's what they did and what got them to the shore. So you basically did the same thing, which is amazing. That's what matters.
Yeah, thank you. I was actually, looking back, I'm pretty proud of the fact that I'm doing it, and like I said, it's not going to stop me from doing it. Obviously, it's just I also know what my abilities are, because if I look back, I thought if the weather kind of turns wavy and bad, I know my abilities are not strong enough to get me that far, so I will have a challenge and I probably won't be able to make it. But when you're in that moment and you kind of get caught up in it, and then just get really frustrated that you have to say, I can't make it, I'm not moving forward, I have to call it quits, and there's no shame in that. So yeah, thank you for letting me share about that too.
Absolutely not.
So we're coming.
No, I love that story.
Thanks. Thank you so much. It's been exciting. It's been an exciting journey, and I'm actually going to be writing some blog posts and things about it, because I've realized in thinking about it, because of course you have lots of time to think when you're swimming, how many ways it actually relates to business, like setting goals and perseverance and all those things. So stay tuned. I'll post that in a blog post soon. Okay, so.
Oh, I love that.
Thanks. I keep forgetting that we have a fraction of a delay here, so I'll just kind of start talking, and you'll say something. I have to remember to pause and let you catch up in the video. So we've covered, I think, almost everything that we wanted to talk about, and I've taken a look, and I don't see any questions there. We've had Lisa, who said she's just joined us. Better late than never. Hi, Lisa. Thank you. And Ronnie Binzer said that he can't catch the live show today, but he will catch the replay. Sounds like a good show. So how about, so I'm just looking through our notes here. I think you've covered pretty much everything. So why don't you tell everyone about your upcoming course that you're designing, and I know it's going to be an email course, and give us some details on that, and tell people what you're up to and where they can find you and where they can find your free gift.
Okay, so I am creating a email course that is geared around helping you minimize the impact of bad days on your productivity. So we all have our off days, and we all kind of get like you did. You said like maybe I don't feel good and I want to go to the beach. Well, things like that we're often tempted to just kind of push through. Those are the times when maybe you should not push through, or maybe you should have some techniques to help you identify when you should push through, when you shouldn't push through, and whatever you're doing, you need to have a way to kind of know how to do it right, because tackling off days is a completely different way
Mm.
from tackling regular days where your energy levels are normal, where everything is predictable. So it's going to be an email course, 2 to 3 weeks. It's actually still in a very inception period. But if you sign up for the free course that I'm offering, then you'll definitely get info on it. So what it is going to be is you're going to be doing little exercises that will help you either make the most of a really bad off day where perhaps you're not going to be able to push through, and whether that means going to the beach or doing things that need to get done anyway, but that just you don't really get done because you have other more important things to do. It might be ways to pick yourself up so that you can make it a much better day if you identify that it's okay. It's a workable day, and it could be. It's also partly ways to identify sort of why if you're having too many bad days, why are you having them? Understanding them better and understanding exactly sort of what their magnitude is. Like, is this a really bad day? Is it just an okay day? So there's a lot of those little tools, and it will really help you sort of make the most of them. So that is the upcoming course. Now, if you want to get info on that and to get my free 9-day course, which I really recommend, it would be super helpful, and I really can't wait to help you work through it. So just go to lauragjones.com/TPOF, and you'll get the email course as well as a couple of selected blog posts that I thought would be very useful for you in light of our conversation. The other thing, so what I'm up to is I just released a brand new coaching package. It's a 3-month package, and it's called very unimaginatively More Time, More Money, More Freedom. And it's mostly geared towards entrepreneurs who work all day, or if you are at a job right now and you're switching to being an entrepreneur, then you're gonna have a huge shock when you start having all that time and don't know how to fill it. And we're gonna basically be setting up all of these habits that are individualized to you, all these rituals, working through everything, and really getting like a whole system going that is completely flexible and tailored to your needs.
That sounds pretty awesome. So again, find that her free offer at lauragjones.com/TPOF. That's for the power of free. And be sure to tweet out anything from today's show with, you can see the hashtag in my banner, hashtag TPOF show. And we'll be able to track it and follow it. And if you've made any comments, we'll be able to see and come back and answer. And you can find Laura on Facebook and Pinterest and Twitter. And do you want to just give some of your social networks as well? So where can they find you?
Yeah, I mean, just so Facebook is facebook.com/LauraJonesG, because there are too many Laura Joneses. By the way, my middle name is Gabriella, but Laura G. Jones is just a lot easier than Laura Gabriella Jones.
Oh, what a nice name.
Thank you. And Twitter is Laura_G Jones, but I know Angelique will share all of those links, so I'm sure you'll find me in the show notes. Yeah, and I just wanted to say, like, so many people get like stuck in this corporate, I call it like almost like a masculine energy, like habit of kind of doing the schedules and the to-do lists and everything. And I think it's really important that we start thinking outside of that box. If we're entrepreneurs, and especially women entrepreneurs don't really work very well with that, and if you have all day like kind of struggling with that, it's like just come over, get the free resources, just kind of get used to the idea that you can do it differently. You can start listening to yourself. You don't have to always have a schedule and a rigid system. You can, make your business work for your life and for the kind of life that you want to live. And I think that's just really important to be said, and for you to kind of know about yourself.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for clarifying that too, and allowing people that freedom to be in that space however they come into it, whether it's the more masculine mindset or a corporate mindset or whatever it is, and appreciating all of our gifts and how we come into the world. So thank you so much, Laura, for the great insights. It's definitely helped me, and I love how compassionate you are about setting our own schedules and being kind to ourselves, and being able to just see the value in how we can do these things in a better way and creating the habits that are going to make us more successful and more productive and have more clarity and things like that too. And your course sounds fantastic, so I'm looking forward to that. And I will definitely share all the details in the show notes on my blog. So if you've missed any of the shows, you can catch the replays either on YouTube or on my blog, and I will post the link for that after. It's under brightsparkmedia.ca/category/the power of free. So all of the past shows are there for you, and I create lots of resource links in that. So if you've missed anything, we also put timestamps on the video. So if you just want to kind of jump through and skip to whatever part you think is most important, you can do that too. So I'll be updating that in the next week. And I will definitely have the links there for you to come and visit Laura on her page and grab your free gift. That sounds like it's going to be very, very useful. So I'm going to, do you have any final words there, Laura, before I close out the show?
No, just thank you so much for having me. This is awesome. I love talking to you. I loved hearing all the adventures with swimming and everything else. And thank you just for giving me this time to speak and to blabber and to grasshopper around here. So thank you so much. I loved being here. It was just the best hour of my day so far. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for agreeing to be on the show and talking about something that I think is so important that so many people struggle with, and that you're so able to help them in such an easy and manageable way. And I look forward to. I followed your progress for the last probably at least the last year that we've kind of been contacting each other via social media and done some video calls and watching your progress too. So I love this new focus that you've got, and I think it's super on target for people, and it's really going to be helpful. So I look forward to your course and reading your blog posts. And anyone, if you want to go over and check, she's got some fantastic blog posts. She writes some very epic, thoughtful, authentic blog posts. So definitely go over there and check out Laura's blog as well. Like I said, I'll post that in the show notes. So thank you so much for being my guest today. You've been a great guest, and I've loved talking to you. So I will just close.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So I'll just close out the show today. We talked about productivity, mindset, and clarity, and how you can prioritize your life and your work and have a more stress-free life and be more productive using habits instead of rigid schedules. And in the upcoming episodes, I'm going to have people talking about visual marketing and LinkedIn and websites and SEO and security and some more things like law of attraction. Maybe we'll have some more soft topics as well, because I find people really have challenge with those sort of things, not just the tactical. And it's all the sort of free tools and resources that experts are using to grow their business online and to stay productive in their lives. And I want to share that with all the entrepreneurs and business people and service professionals to help you get more productive in your business using free tools. So it's a bi-weekly show, the first and third Thursday, usually at noon Pacific time, and it's the Power of Free show. So stay tuned for that. The hashtag is TPOF show. You can follow it. And of course, you can see me on YouTube, Google+, and Facebook are probably the best places to reach me. So thank you so much for tuning in and for sharing your time with me today. I know you all have busy schedules, and even if you're watching the replay, I hope you've gotten a lot of value out of today's guest, Laura Jones, talking about productivity, prioritizing, mindset, and clarity. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next show. Bye.